What's up, Affordable Armory folks? How y'all doing? So today I got kind of a little bit of a different video for you. We're going to talk about home defense rifles. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me so you'll find out when future videos come out. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright guys, so recently I decided to take a couple of rifle training classes. It occurred to me I've taken several pistol training classes, and the only rifle training I had was when I was in the military. And I kind of took that for granted because I felt like I knew everything there was to know about the AR platform, because I rocked the M4 for all those years and knew the gun inside and out, and boy was I wrong. So anyways, I've been taking these classes. They're not classes about the gun, they're classes about how to employ the gun. So that's what we're going to talk about today, some considerations on how you should set up your rifle based on if you are going to use it for home defense. So just an overview of what I've got right here. I ran this almost as it's set up right here. There's one thing that I've changed, but I ran this in the first class. So I've got diamond head iron sights, which is fine. I didn't even use the iron sights in the class. It was all red dot. But you should have backup iron sights on your rifle. This is the Magpul handguard. It's the one that you can find everywhere. And let's see. This is the Vortex Strikefire 2 red dot sight. Again, the rear sight also diamond head. Standard charging handle, it's the one that came with the gun, and a Magpul stock Magpul grip. Those are things that I've added to it: the stock, the grip, the forend. I put a sling mount on this side, and then it attaches with the quick detach on the rear. This is also a Magpul sling. It's their MS3. I'll put links to some of this stuff down below if you want. So without further ado, let's head over to the workbench and I'll talk about some things that I would change about this gun if I was going to use it for home defense, and why. Okay, so here we are at the workbench, so you can kind of see a little bit better what we're going to be talking about. So on a home defense rifle, I think there's a couple things that you absolutely should have, and there's a couple things that are optional, and there's some things that I just wouldn't do. One thing that I think is absolutely mandatory is a light. Now you're probably thinking, well, there's not a light on that gun. What do you mean? When I ran this class, I had this mounted right there. And it wasn't this one, it was another Streamlight, but basically like that. And what I found was it was super awkward to grip the gun, especially for long periods of time. But to do what they call a C-clamp style grip, you wrap your thumb over the top. Well, right where my thumb is pretty much right where that light was. So to activate the light, you kind of would have to do some funky maneuvering, and then you'd have to like squeeze it in behind the light, and it just wasn't very comfortable. And then I wasn't running a tape switch for it, so when I would switch to left hand, there was no real way to activate the light. So that, combined with the fact that this foregrip, this handguard, is just, I don't know, it's fine for what it is, but it's not my preference. I want something that's slimmer, has more mounting options. You can see that it has 3 slots that you can mount to, and it's the same on this side. Those are not actual mounting slots. They look like they are, but they're not. And then I have had the worst luck with trying to mount anything down here. Maybe you guys have had better luck, but I've tried to put an angled foregrip down there. I've tried to put a vertical foregrip down there. And something about the thickness of it right in there, the screws aren't long enough, and the M-lock things, which is weird because this is designed for M-lock. The the part that turns, that, you know, you tighten it down and then you stick it through, and when you turn it, it's blocking on the other side. If y'all have ever done M-lock, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what the freaking thing's called, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it doesn't fit through the hole. Like, it's too big for the hole. And then even if you take this apart and pre-thread it through the other way, the screw isn't long enough. And so I don't know. I've had the worst luck trying to mount anything to this, and so I just don't like it. I don't like it. I've been able to mount this, and I had the flashlight mounted on there, and I took it off because, like I said, it just wasn't working. So I would go with a much slimmer handguard and a better mounting option. You know, modern handguards now are, you know, like the free float ones. They're much, much better. And we'll get into that when I get into the Palmetto State Armory AR pistol here in a minute. So that's one of two main reasons, or one of three main reasons that I chose not to run this for the second class. Second one being this right here. You may be thinking, like, seriously, the trigger guard? You don't want to run the gun because of the trigger guard? Absolutely. So if you're just going to the range and plinking, you probably don't even notice the trigger guard, right? I mean, it's probably nowhere, and you're thinking about the sights and getting everything lined up and loading and unloading and whatever. Like, this is probably the last thing on your mind. I'll tell you what, hold this rifle for 30 minutes and tell me that this does not hurt your knuckle. And you may be able to see it still. It's been a couple weeks. I promise I'm not giving you the bird, but let me try and focus that. There you go. So it's been a couple weeks. It's kind of healed up, but you can see right there where I was holding the rifle like that. It was just digging into my finger. And I'm telling you, after a couple hours of holding this rifle, I was like, no, that's got to go. Absolutely not going to tolerate that. Sorry. So maybe just for plinking and, you know, having a good old time at the range, this setup is fine. But for any sort of defensive purpose, I want something that is more comfortable. It's not going to dig into my fingers. And you may be thinking, well, in a defensive situation, aren't you only going to be holding it for a couple minutes? Yeah, maybe. But here's the thing. If I have to adjust my grip, that's time. You know, if I pick this gun up and I'm, you know, going to assess the threat, and I hesitate because I had to adjust my grip because that started hurting my finger, that might cost me my life, and it's not worth it. Sorry. So I would recommend a rounded trigger guard. And then the last thing was this sight right here, which, guys, this sight is awesome for just shooting at the range. It's fun. It's been great. It's easy to sight in, you know, blah, 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 whatever you want to say about it. But it's just freaking huge, guys. Look at it. I mean, it sits like 3 inches over the bore. And then on top of that, you've got these, which were actually my main gripe. So in the class, you would shoot, and then you don't drop to a low ready. You do what's called a high compressed scan. And to do that, you drop just about that much. Like, literally, okay, you're on target. Drop the muzzle about that much, and that way you can look over the top of your sight to assess the situation. And then in doing that, that drop also brings this just barely off your cheek so you can look side to side as well. So I found it super obnoxious that I would drop this down and then these were right in my line of sight. I suppose you could probably take those off, but I don't know. In general, I think this is a large, bulky sight, and I can't recommend it for home defense purposes. So I'm not getting rid of this rifle. Like, I'm not downplaying this rifle whatsoever. It's been a great rifle. It was my first AR, and I love it. I always will. But it's not a rifle that I ever plan to employ in a home defense situation for those reasons that I just mentioned. Okay, so for the second class, I decided to run this gun right here, which you guys have seen here before on the channel. This is my Palmetto State Armory PDW with the PDW brace and the 10.5-inch upper. Real quick overview of this. I've got mag pull front and rear sights, pretty standard stuff. Got a angled foregrip on here because you can't put a vertical foregrip on an AR pistol. I'm running the Olight PL Pro Valkyrie, and then on the other side here I've got the tape switch, so I can, very easily turn that on and off. I am running an ambidextrous charging handle. I never really thought much about those until I got one in a tac pack, and I like it, so I'm sticking with it. You're actually about to see a bunch of stuff that I've gotten in tac packs. Now, I don't subscribe to tac pack anymore just because when the Great Plague happened, I wanted to save some money, so I cut off all my subscription boxes. So let's continue on. Let's see, we got the 6 Hour Romeo 5 red dot. We've got another tac pack item here is this oversized magazine release. That's coming off. We've got the equivalent of the Magpul bad lever. You can see that right there. That's also coming off. Running a Magpul sling. That's the same sling as on the other one, except I'm running it in a single point configuration. Even though there is a quick detach point up on the front here, I find it easier to switch to left shoulder or offhand shooting in a single point sling configuration, so I don't have to swim out of the sling. I can just move it over. Plus this is a shorter gun, so it just makes more sense to me to run it in that configuration. And last up is the grip here. I did have a Magpul grip on it, and I switched it out to this Hogue grip, which I also got in a tac pack. This is not a tac pack commercial, but I can say that it's kind of neat to get stuff in the mail every month for 50 bucks. You never know what you're gonna get. You get some pretty cool stuff. You get some kind of what in the world is this thing stuff, and then you get some, oh hey, that's neat stuff, and you also get some garbage. So let's go to the workbench and talk about what I'm gonna change about this gun before I take the next class. Okay, so we've talked about the first rifle, talked about some things that I didn't like about it and why I decided to switch to this gun. Then I talked about this gun. Now let's talk about some things that I did like and didn't like about this setup and what I'm going to change before I take the next class. So first of all, this optic, way better. You can see it's much lower profile. It doesn't have anything sticking out above it, so when you do the high compressed scan, nothing is in your way, so you can see very easily. Much better. I like this style of sight a lot better. The angled foregrip here worked out just fine. I have no problems getting my C-clamp style grip there. One thing I may consider is remounting this tape switch either a little more forward, or I want to mount it up here, but I don't think those are actually M-LOK compatible holes like these are. I tried it and it didn't seem to be working, so because I would prefer to wrap my thumb over the top and then press it that way, but I don't know where it's at right now. It's working just fine. So the sling and the single point worked out just fine. I mean, like I said, it's a shorter gun, so a single point to me makes more sense. Also, it made it easier to transition to offhand shooting. I'm leaving the ambidextrous charging handle because I kind of like that. One thing I did not mention, so we'll start on the things that are going to go. This safety here, this was also a tac pack item, as you can see, is ambidextrous. And something that I ran into during the class, this rattled loose, like dangerously loose. This thing was wiggling around. I was up on the firing line about to do one of the drills, and I noticed that this was literally wiggling. Like I could almost flip it between the two without touching it. So I told the instructor, I'll be right back, and I went over to my range bag, I grabbed a wrench and tightened it down, and it's been fine since then. As you can see, it seems to be working just fine. It's not really loose anymore. But that's something that concerns me enough that I'm probably going to put the factory safety back on there. Now, as to this dingus right here, it's just big and bulky, and it's blocking part of the trigger guard, and it's supposed to help you. And honestly, if you learn how to run your gun properly, right-handed and left-handed, then you don't need a device like this. So I'm going to take it off. it's just kind of in the way. It's another bulky thing. It's unnecessary. And same goes for this thing. And as you can see, it's got some wiggle to it. I don't know why it wiggles like that, but I just don't like it. I'm going to put the factory mag release back on there. And then something I just noticed that may actually be pretty darn important. So another tack bag item was these anti-walk pins. There's one there and one there. And if you notice, that one is missing. See, it should look like that right there. And same on this side. Yeah, it's missing. So that's not good. So I think I'm going to put the original pins back in there. And, I had someone tell me not too long ago that if you install your pins correctly, then you don't need anti-walk pins. And that makes sense to me. So I'm just going to make sure that I put the pins in there the right way. And that'll be that. So there you go. I'm going to make those changes. I'm going to take off all the unnecessary stuff, all the questionable stuff. And I'm going to go run it again. Other than that, this gun has run great. This Olight has run great. I'm okay with the grips. This sling is good. Everything about it is good. Honestly, I could run it again in this configuration, but I'm not going to because, I'm taking these classes to learn, and so I'm going to take what I've learned from these classes and apply it and then learn some more. I may go to the next class and be like, holy crap, I really missed that dingus or widget that I had on there. Who knows? We'll see. One last thing about this gun. During the class, I had what you might say, not a catastrophic failure because the gun did not explode. However, I had a stoppage that was significant enough that I had to stop using this gun. The instructor loaned me his gun to finish the class until he could get it fixed, which he did. But what happened was the castle nut came loose, and that caused the buffer tube to turn, which caused the bolt to get stuck in the buffer tube. And that's a pretty serious failure, guys. That means that now this is the same gun that I've had multiple issues with, so let's just be clear. That means that Palmetto State Armory did not properly stake the castle nut, and that's what caused the malfunction. So, if you want to run that back, I had bad receiver, they fixed it. Then I had issues with the overgassing where it was shooting the rounds out that way instead of that way. And I fixed that by getting the new buffer tube the new buffer and spring, because I did research and found out that this is a proprietary buffer and spring in this setup. So after getting the proper buffer and spring, didn't have any issues. The bolt was locking open like it was supposed to, and the ejection pattern was much better. So the third and final straw, I think, is that major failure. I cannot risk my life or bet my life on this gun if it's going to have a malfunction like that. So I am going to continue to run this in the classes because I only have 2 ARs, and so I prefer this one of the two. But if anything, it's an excuse to get a new AR. So there you guys have it. That's my thoughts on using a rifle for home defense based on the training that I've been taking. Let me know in the comments, do you use a rifle for home defense? If so, what do you use and why? As always, thanks for watching. If this is your first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you'll know when future videos come out. Head over to affordable-armory.com. That's where the blog lives. That's where all of our social media links are. All of our affiliate links are there, so you can save yourself some money on something you were going to buy anyway. And we've got merch, so you can pick yourself up a hat like this one here. We've also got hats, t-shirts, hoodies, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, all that stuff helps support the channel. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.